allegiance to my flag. I'll just do the talking.
Sure. Peace America, and to the republic for which it stands,
Indivisible, with liberty and justice
and
for all.
justice.
Okay, let's start. There's steep grant application. So I'll make the motion to start that the selectmen board to request in the amount of $128,205 from, no, that's not right. Let me look at that again. I would make a motion to approve a special appropriation for town hall redesign phase 1 in the amount not to exceed $158,000, comprised of $128,205 in steep grant funds and $29,795 in town funding from COVID contingency. Having found that the approval of this special appropriation meets the executive order issued by the governor, that the approval of this project without a town meeting is necessary to permit the orderly operation of the town, and that there is a need to act immediately during the pandemic emergency to avoid significant financial loss, and that the board recommends to the Board of Finance that it make the same findings and approve the special appropriation. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, everybody seconds. Okay, Greg, you want to give us an overview? And do you have control of the screen?
I don't, but Dan has my presentation.
Okay.
I think he's gonna, there you go.
Great. Super.
So I will be very brief. This is an update from the meeting that I had with you on August 3rd, and I only have a couple slides. At your request, I spent some time with Jerry Gay updating this application just so we can make a better informed decision. So Dan, if you can make this page just a little smaller. So this page here is the same page I presented to you on August 3rd with just 3 changes all in red. The first is that the application deadline, let me turn that phone off. Hold on, please.
Right.
The first is that the application deadline's been extended 2 weeks to August 28th by OPM. And that's appropriate given the power outage we had, pretty much statewide. I don't know that the Board of Finance meeting's been scheduled. Hopefully it's going to be this week as well.
Yeah, they have one Thursday.
It's Thursday?
Yeah.
Great. So if you scroll down a little bit, Dan, please. So what I'll talk about tonight on the subsequent 3 pages is the fact, and we talked about this, we broke down this town hall redesign project into 3 phases. And phase 1 is what we call the most critical piece, which is the land use office renovation. So I'll talk about that. I'll present to you a preliminary floor plan that Alice put together. Again, it's preliminary. And I'll talk about one of the neat things that I think we've always wanted to do is digitizing our files as part of this plan and why we want to do that. Then I'll talk about schedule and budget. So with that, we'll go to the next page. So if Dan can flip that sideways. So in the lower left, if you could just kind of orientate yourself, you know where the conference rooms are, you know where the vault is, and all of the offices identified there is what we call the land use office area. And we're talking about basically flipping what's on Alice's side and what's on the other side, just flipping it. And there's a couple reasons for that flip. The first is Dr. Sullivan, because of HIPAA, needs a private office. And his health office is right there, as you can see, what was the old WPCA office. And he now is all the way on, his staff is all the way on the other end. Sanitarian and assistant sanitarian and his admin. So it's really very inefficient for their operation. Copy machines and files and everything else are just inadequate. And if you make that flip for that reason, that would really more level the playing field on the sizes that every office needs to run. In addition, we would close a couple of doorways and restrict access so that the flow of the public and the flow of employees is it's much more purposeful, and there's a lot less people wandering through doors. So at a very high level, this is the kind of change that we're talking about. And what we would do is put up partitions so that everybody has their private workspace. And I'll talk about the partitions, the design, the color, and how we got a price estimate for that over the past couple weeks. The last comment I want to make is we already brought a consultant in to look at this area about 3 weeks ago. And his first observation to us was, oh my gosh, look at all these file cabinets. If you go to land use, we have file cabinet after file cabinet piled up all over the place. So part of this project would digitize the files, and that gets you a couple things. It frees up space, and it makes it a lot more efficient for the public and staff to access files because they'd be available digitally. And they would all be in a file, or they'd all be cataloged so that they'd be more easily accessible. So that is the layout, and that's what we're thinking here preliminarily. If there's no questions, I'll go to the next page.
Greg, the price that you're going to tell us includes the digitation? Is that?
That's what I want to talk about right here, Sue.
Okay, thank you.
So it depends on what you want to digitize. So there's actually a state DAS contract. You can look at that contract number up top. The state has already negotiated a rate, a state rate for digitizing files. And that's the cost per page, depending on the size of the page. Jerry estimated the number of file cabinets and therefore the number of drawers. Actually, he counted the number of file cabinets, counted the drawers, estimated the number of pages in each drawer, and came up with two numbers. If we were to digitize all of the files outside of the vault in the land use office, it would cost $17,000. If we were to digitize all the files in the vault, it's $89,000, over 1 million pages. So at this point, I think it's a little excessive maybe to digitize all the files in the vault. We've got a concrete vault. It's a concrete room, and it would cost more money to tear that down and digitize these files than I'm guessing we would want to spend. So what I'm suggesting with this grant is that we digitize all of the files outside the vault and free up many, many, many file cabinets. Now, we've been digitizing files with summer help on and off over the past few summers, but we've just scratched the surface. There's 112,000 pages that we've got to do. Many of these are on full-size drawings, and it's going to take some time and money. So I'm suggesting that we, with this project now, if we're going to do it, now's the time to do it. So I'm recommending the $17,000 outside the vault digitizing exercise.
Greg, can I ask a quick question, please?
Yes.
When you say free up the file cabinets, are you saying freeing them up for future use, or free those areas up so that we can use the areas maybe more efficiently?
What I would do, Harry, is I would follow the state's retention guidelines for hard copies. And if the state, first of all, if the state requires we maintain hard copies of any of these files, I suggest we get a storage place for them. And when we do phases 2 and 3, there might be some space available, and if not, rent that space. But for those files that we don't need hard copies and we have digital, I would suggest we destroy them and get rid of the file cabinets.
Okay, thank you.
And then the process going forward, you'd have some admin person on a regular basis, keeping us up to date with everything that should be digitized?
I think going forward, everything would be digitized. And we'd have to really resist the temptation to just keep hard copies and not digitize. It's really it's a work process. It's a responsibility. It's something we just have to stay on top of. You just can't slide back to, hard copy only.
Yeah, and we're getting a lot of applications now that are in digital format. They're received in digital format, right, Greg?
Yes.
Great.
In fact, almost all of our land use applications are online only now, right? We've not been open as a town hall for several months, and we're really, really pushing. And I have to give Alice Dew a lot of credit on this. really forcing the culture change and the mentality and the work process and the training to really move to everything being digitized. It's really a big step, and it's not as easy as it sounds.
Greg, this 17,000 approximately does not include labor?
No, that's the whole deal.
It does. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, great.
Now, it doesn't include removing file cabinets or destroying files, but that would be the contract to digitize the files. In the cost
Great.
estimate I'm going to show you, I have an estimate for the renovations as we've thought about them.
And then we would sell the file cabinets, go to govbid.org or whatever, and just sell
Replace
all.
some old ones, maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. Okay, so next page, which I
Yeah.
think is the last page. Okay, so what we're talking about here, just quickly on the schedule, if we get approval tonight and then we get Board of Finance approval, the grant application, what they said in the application is they're going to make decisions within a month of the deadline. So we're going to know by September if we get this grant. And I think that's great news. We can then hire a design consultant if we want to for this phase for the office layout, or we can go with what we want without a consultant. I'm going to suggest, because we're making rather massive changes, not just
Right.
about the desks, but about the eating area, about the location of copy machines. There's a lot of things that it's more than just moving a desk around. And it's been recommended to us before that we hire a design consultant for the proper layout before we buy the equipment. So anyways, let's say we hire a design consultant. We can approve those plans. We can digitize those files. We can relocate and destroy hard copies. We can start our renovations in February, and I think we could be done by March. So that's just, it's a pretty simple project in that regard. Now let's talk about the money. Okay, so I'm suggesting, before we even talk about the last three columns, let's look at the first two columns. I've kind of laid this out in 5 or 6 different line items. A design consultant. We know that one has already given us a price for $15,000 for the whole building. If we just reduce that scope to phase 1 land use, we could probably get it done for about $5 grand, I'm guessing. The digitized files, that's a state contract. We just need to know the number of pages, and that price is already determined by state contract. We don't have to go out to bid. We'll then have to remove temporary partitions and get ready for renovations. There's probably going to be, because if you look at that plan carefully, we're going to move some walls around, take out some doors, change some access ways. There's going to be renovations, probably to HVAC, lighting, phone lines, IT, that kind of thing. That number is purely my guess. Then we're going to have to rearrange the offices. Again, rearrange some of the walls. I'm guessing $40,000. I don't have a better number because we don't have a final design and we haven't had estimators come in. We do know with that design, we've been working with Stanford Office Supply. They are also under a state contract. And with the layout we gave them, with the partitions that we want, which are 67 inches high, a standard color, with 18 inches of glass on the top of every panel so we can see through to the service desks and each other, it's $40,000 in partitions just for land use. I put in 20% contingency just because we don't want to come in over budget. And that comes up to $158,000. With $128,000 steep, I'm suggesting we split it that way with everything else on the town side. Now, the biggest uncertainty with this estimate are my numbers because they're simply guesses. We can probably, I feel comfortable managing to a budget of less than that if we really watch ourselves carefully and we use public works and we use the skill set that we have in-house. But we do know that we have to spend town money on this grant. It's required. I'm hoping we can get away with spending less than $30,000. So That is all I have for you on an update. I'll tell you, it wasn't easy since meeting with you on August 3rd, getting information, but this is the best we can do given the 2-week period that's been crazy at Town Hall, as you can imagine.
So first, I want to thank you, Greg, for all the work you did on this in such a short period of time. You did a really good job on this. And I think the second thing I wanted to say is we got to remember, this is long-term protecting our employees in case we get another pandemic. People will have separated spaces where they can work, where they're not being exposed. We don't have shower curtains or plastic hanging from the ceiling. It's well overdue, even if there wasn't the consideration of pandemic. It's just the amount of file cabinets down there. And I think the absolute right thing to do is to digitize, and then going forward, digitize everything. So we don't get another pile of documents and then start to attack the vault. You know, keep what we need to in paper in the vault, but otherwise let's digitize it and get it out there so people can look at it.
Yeah, Steve, I was kind of on the fence, and seeing the way this lays out, and the fact that we may be able to get all of this remodeling completed for maybe $30,000 cost to town, I think this is a slam dunk. I really do.
I do too. You know, if we've been talking about this for a couple of years, and we were thinking all 3 phases about $250,000. Rough guess, you know, pulling it out of the air. If we can get a grant to pay for, 90%, 80% of phase 1, I think it is a slam dunk.
I agree. It is a topic that we've, had on the budget for a couple of years, had to take it off. It makes so much sense, Greg, to flip the offices that way and have, Doc's people next to him. It's just, the whole thing just makes perfect sense.
It really does. Any other questions, concerns, issues?
And digitizing too. I mean, we do need to get there.
Yeah, we do. We absolutely
and
do.
chip away at the vault, as we can. Mhm.
Yes, I agree. Any other concerns or issues? Are we ready to
No.
vote?
Yeah, just again, if I can say also thank you to Greg, because not only did we give you such a short period of time, but the very next day we had the tropical storm come through.
Yeah.
And no power for days.
Yeah.
So really appreciate all that you've done. I was actually shocked you could put it all together for today.
Yeah. And I kind of wish they had not extended the deadline, because I know a lot of towns couldn't make this Friday, but we can. And it might make it easier for us to get the grant we want, but it is what it is. And we'll go out.
I will say Jerry Gay was very helpful. I mean, he got me and, he put me in touch with the right people, and I was able to keep working with them even through the power outage on and off as much as we could. So Jerry was a big help to, help me, push through with this.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. So I made a motion. We had a second. If there's no further questions, all those in favor of moving this to the Board of Finance for their consideration, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Great. Greg, thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it.
So would you like the same presentation to the Board of Finance on Thursday?
Yes. Yes.
All
I
right.
think it's exactly what we want. Okay, good. I appreciate it. So our next motion is generators. Can you bear with me 1 second? Sorry, Ginny put them in the folder. She's more efficient than I am. So we've been having, I know we've had discussions in the past, but let me make a motion first that we, as a board, using the same language we did before, that the selectmen approve a special appropriation for the town hall generators for the police station, town hall, and the senior center, not to exceed $57,600 for the senior center, $85,200 for the police department, and $145,800 for town hall to design, buy, and install generators for all 3 buildings. And that money would come from the contingency fund And having found that the approval of this special appropriation meets the executive order issued by the governor, that the approval of this project without a town meeting is necessary to permit the orderly operation of town, and that there is a need to act immediately during the pandemic emergency to avoid significant financial loss, and that the board recommends to the Board of Finance that it make the same findings and approve the special appropriation. And I would add that it also involves the health and safety of our residents and our employees. Do I have a second on that motion?
Second?
2 seconds. Okay, we can have a discussion. Did you get the documentation on the 3 generators? We're
Yes.
getting to the last Tuesday night, the police station generator went out. It's original to the building in 1983. We can't have our police station dark. We can't have it. It's got to have running, reliable power 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Even going out for a half an hour or 40 minutes, we got very lucky. We were able to get it back up and running, but it's a 1983 generator, and we just can't have that. And the same
Steve,
thing
what
with
did that mean to the calls?
they didn't get calls. They automatically would reroute to other, if our lines go down, they go to like Danbury, and then Danbury calls us into us on radio and things like that. Luckily, we were able to manage it all. No call got lost. No request got pushed back. But if we were out for 3 or 4 or 5 hours, it would cause a real problem. And I just think that we can't afford that for the police station. And second, people, when I got back in the office Friday morning, there were something like 80 voicemails that Ginny and I had from people asking for help and asking for updates. And we had no way of picking up our voicemails. We had no way of having power to the building. We were dead also, but we were dead from Tuesday night until Friday morning. No one was in town hall because we didn't have power, we didn't have computers, we didn't have anything. And again, we need to be here and be ready for any emergency. And this is the 9th event so far this year, tropical storm or hurricane. The National Weather Service is predicting a much higher than average number of these going forward this year. Usually we don't, and we are hitting the high season. High season is September for hurricanes and tropical storms. And for the senior center, the reason for putting that in there is we need a place that we can have a cooling station or a place that people can just shelter that has power. Now we do have the high school, but that's problematic right now with the kids and the COVID-19. We do not want to expose our seniors to kids in the high school. We just don't want to do it. Although they'll be doing a really good cleaning job, I think we're going to need in the future, if another pandemic occurs, a place where we can pretty much isolate our seniors and have either a cooling station or a warming station if it's in the dead of winter, where they can at least go get water, right? Have a bathroom they can use. And I think if we're doing this, we should do all 3. I know it's not cheap. I know we've also talked about this, geez, Sue, since we took office. And Harry, you've heard this conversation a few times.
Yeah. Steve, do we have a regional shelter in the greater Danbury area? Is there?
I'm not aware of a regional shelter. Each town does it on their own.
Okay.
So eventually Huckleberry will be,
right.
Huckleberry will be all set for,
Right.
the west side of town, but,
Right.
Well,
we still need a place for the east side of town and for our seniors. And
the high school, even last time that we were having an issue, it wasn't reliable.
no, now they have a new generator, so they're much more reliable. Their generator worked just fine.
Okay,
But if
good.
this goes on for a number of days, we can't disturb school. And they may want to start school before people are able to get back in their houses, right? Because school now is pretty much hardened, so it'd be ready to go for the kids. It was okay before because they weren't sure about the generator at the high school, so they weren't bringing the kids back. Now that they have a generator, they can bring them back a lot more easily and quickly and safely than we can. And I think we're running into a problem here where we need a place. And I don't want our seniors to think they're getting short shrift either, right? Where I think it's more critical at this point in time to get power to town hall, but we also, I think, need to do the senior center. It would be a perfect place for sheltering our seniors. It's got a lot of space in there. You could probably fit 60, 70, 80 people in there, even social distancing with the amount of space that they have. Would it be fun? No. But would it keep them warm and give them water and give them a bathroom and a place to charge their phone? Yeah. And we saw, just by putting a hotspot in the front of town hall, and we did it at the police station and in front of the senior center, between Friday and Monday when we took our hotspot down, we had something like 400 people use it. And the charging station, the same thing. We probably had a couple hundred people just come down and charge up their phones or their computers. So I think this is not going to get better in the future. I think this is going to get worse.
Right. And even, not even thinking another pandemic, but just the weather patterns that have
Yes.
changed. I mean, we know just in the last couple of years what this town has gone through.
Yeah.
So have a spot that, a good number of people could go to.
Yeah. I remember when we moved here in 1983, Harry, you lived here then, right? Nobody
Yes.
had a generator. Nobody
No.
had a generator. You didn't need it.
No.
Now a third of the town has generators and it's not enough, right? I mean, I had no hot water. Okay, I can go without that for 3 or 4 days, but you go 7, 8, 9 days with no hot water. That's not fun.
Steve, is it something to possibly consider approaching the other towns about a regional shelter? Is that not really feasible?
We could do that. I think the question is, where would you do it? If we had another tropical storm, it's going to be very hard to get around. So even if you use the War Memorial in Danbury, are our residents going to be able to make it there?
Yeah.
Question.
Yeah.
And how many people can they hold? I mean, that's a good sized building, but they'll probably say to Brookfield, okay, if we do it with 5 surrounding towns, okay, Brookfield, you get 40 slots.
Yeah.
And I just don't know. But I think Sue is right. This is only going to get worse going forward. And my opinion is we should be prepared for it as a town and not have to rely on anyone else to
And I think
shelter our
what scares
residents.
me too, you're talking about the police calls. We were down for a half hour, but other towns were experiencing the same things as us.
Yep.
So to rely on someone else in a short period is fine, but like you said, if it was a couple of days, that could be catastrophic.
Yeah, it could. And, we talked about this for years. I know they talked about it even before we took office, Sue.
And I think the fact that you said, it's coming from the contingency fund. I mean, I think this is a perfect example of what to use that for.
Yeah.
It's the health and safety of our residents.
Health and safety, it is. And we might be able to find grants for it, but they're few and far between. We've been looking over the last couple of years. And you can get grants for like generators for emergency water, like WPCA. They have generators at each of their pump stations, but otherwise we can't find grants that pay for this.
No FEMA, COVID,
No,
nothing.
no, you wish that.
I'm sure you've looked. Yeah. Mhm.
Yep, we have.
Okay.
So having made that motion, have a second. Do we have any further conversation on this? Harry, are you comfortable with moving this to the Board of Finance?
I am.
Okay. So all those in favor of approving this and moving it to the Board of Finance? Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all 3. Okay, great. Reopening town offices. Right now, I wanted to talk to you guys. The schools are going to start September 8th. And we think that's a good time to reopen town offices. Senior center, probably not fully at the senior center, but town hall for walk-in, for people coming in. If it gets really bad, we'll go back to appointments. We're still working through that. What we are now waiting for is the new protective equipment that Brookfield Glass is putting together for us with the hard plastic that comes down around the desks, the plexiglass, because our fire marshal doesn't like the shower curtains. And they told us that should be 2 to 4 weeks. It's been about 2 weeks since we ordered that. So we should be able to have that up and installed before September 8th. But I'm thinking that's a good time to start to reopen town hall, as long as all the indicators stay where they are now. And
Steve,
don't-
is it, I'm sorry, go ahead, Sue.
I was just going to say, would you continue to have the monitor there? Someone who will, go through the COVID symptoms, making sure you
Yes.
don't have it, take your temperature.
Yeah, we're not
Okay.
doing the temperature because Doc says you just get a lot of false positives, especially when it's warm. But yeah, we would still have a monitor because we'd have to arrange for people to come in
Contact.
because like the tax assessor, only 2 people can be in that office safely right now.
And for contact tracing, it's
And for
important.
contact, we're going to take everybody's name and we'll probably put them in the conference rooms and then, arrange, okay, one came out, okay, you can go in. But yeah, we will have somebody at the door. We have the same thing with the library. And we've asked the library to come up with a plan, which they have. It could get very, very expensive to have that monitor there, the whole time the library is open. So we're asking the library, okay, let's go with a shorter schedule, open for 4 or 5 hours a day, not 8 or 9. And because we just need to save money on these monitors.
Steve, if we are going to be open, let's say 4 hours a day,
Yeah.
let me finish before, if we are going to have it open for 4 hours a day, are the employees going to be getting full pay?
Yeah,
Or do they get?
no. The employees are here now full-time, Harry. We're talking about allowing the public in.
Oh, okay.
The employees have been full-time for 8 weeks now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure. Okay.
They'll be here. For just walk-ins, we may only have like 4 hours a day just to walk in. If
Yeah.
you want to make an appointment, and let's say walk-ins are 12 noon to 4 in the afternoon, if you want to make an appointment, you could come in at 9 in the morning.
Okay.
And we're not completely settled with the plan, with the actual details, but I think that's a good way to start. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree. And as far as the library, they've been busy the whole time, putting packets
Yeah.
together, getting books together for people, doing online. So I'm sure they'll keep busy the rest of the day as well.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. And they're going to continue, their delivery of books to the, to the front door.
Mhm.
And because a lot of people still want that and don't want to come in the library, don't want to get exposed to anyone. But there are some people, especially people who want to use the computers, who do want to come into the library. So we're going to still do the book delivery at the front door and then start to allow people in.
Mm.
Harry, you wanted to say something, I think?
No, I think you answered my question. I'm fine.
See, I got this all ahead of time. I got Harry's questions. So we'll plan on that if we're all agreed and just move forward. And then if for some reason we have to push back, we'll talk again.
Okay.
Right? Okay. So finance department, job description. We're updating the job description for the purchasing agent, purchasing manager. I think you've gotten copies of that. Jerry has resigned, so we're moving forward, and we thought there's no better time to update before you hire somebody. And Marcia, you want to give us a quick overview on the changes that we made to this?
So the changes essentially are trying to adapt it a little more from just a purchasing agent, a buyer, to a department head. So there's some organizational things that are included in there, some feedback that we've tried to fill it out a little bit more robustly and organize it a little bit by types of projects.
I think it's good. We went over this and it's about 80% of what we had before, but it leans more towards the manager part and department part and a little more responsibility for doing the overall management of purchasing rather than just looking at it from a reactive standpoint, which we've done somewhat in the past, whereas we want a new purchasing manager to, although we've gotten pretty far, we're not where we want to be. And we want somebody to take a little more responsibility on and act more like a department head.
And so the way we came up with them was essentially reviewing what our needs were and what was or was not included in the purchase agent, changing it so it would be reporting to finance instead of the first selectman. There's a split on that some people say, well, it should be the first selectman or the CEO. So there's not budgetary issues that come into play where you would have that in the CFO. With the CFO, they say that though if it reports to Steve instead, then there's it's not as well coordinated. I figured that we had budget issues that that we all want to keep the budget low, no matter who this position reports to.
Right.
So,
And we have had significant discussions with John Baril and Ken Post, and they have reviewed and given us our input on this because they do pay half the bill. So they agree with this description as well as we do.
Does our decision go to the finance committee also, or no? Just
it's
us.
just the Board
Did they
of
have any
Selectmen.
input on that?
They could if they wanted to. I don't have a
Board of
problem with that. If they want to look at the description and give us some suggestions, I don't have any problem with that at all. But it's the Board of Selectmen that makes the final decision on this.
All right, I just
I
wondered
would-
if they have any input.
Yeah, I would like to hear some of the input from the Board of Finance. I mean, seeing as we have, a business director, a treasurer, a buying agent, how this, I would just like to hear their thoughts about it becoming a department head.
Yeah,
At least let them read it over.
Right.
And it wouldn't
that's
actually
not-
be the department head.
but Harry, let me stop you there. That's not their decision.
No, I'm not saying that. I would just like to hear, their thoughts on it.
I don't have any problem with getting their thoughts, but again, it's up to us to decide
Right,
what it is. Okay,
right.
I'll send that to them and ask them for input. I think we've done a pretty good job. I don't think they'll have any big questions on it, but certainly we'll take any advice from anyone on any of our job positions. Maybe we
thank
missed something. Okay, so if there's no further discussion, I would make a motion that we accept the job description of the purchasing manager as laid out in your folders and posted to the town website. Do I have a second?
Can I change that so that we do just run it past the Board of Finance?
Yes, you can, but it's not part of our motion. They have no say in this. We'll take their advice, but they have no say in this. It should not
Okay.
be part of our motion. That would be giving them powers that they don't have, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I understand this. I mean, I understand what Sue is saying, but I don't have an issue with putting forward this motion, knowing that they are going to be able to give us some
Yeah.
input.
And we've always done that before. We want them as involved as possible. But they don't have a legal say in this, and I don't want to confuse that or make it a gray area.
Okay, if they do have suggestions that it's like, oh, great idea, we hadn't thought of it.
Board of
Do we
Selectmen
now
will
have
take
to
it up.
come back?
Yep,
And
Board of Selectmen will
approve this again?
Correct.
Good question, Sue.
But we want to go out and start looking for a new purchasing manager. So we can go with this one and then we can always update it as we move along. And we'll probably get a couple good ideas from the Board of Finance or others.
Did John Lucas look at it?
We did not send it to John, but I will. That's a good idea. So having said that, are we okay with this as it is? Do you have any questions or concerns on it?
I don't, thank you, Sue, for bringing that up. I don't, if we do get suggestions that make sense from the Board of Finance or John Lucas, that we can consider it.
Yep, we'll consider it in the
Good.
time.
Good, thank you.
We're
Okay,
always welcome to take a good idea. Right?
All right.
I don't think we missed anything, but maybe we did.
no, I'm fine with that then, Sue.
Okay.
Yeah.
So having made the motion and had a second, I believe, from Sue, right,
Yep.
to adopt this, no further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Carries 3-0. And the issue we have tonight is our tree warden. So the issue here is our tree warden was not available to us when we needed him to run the roads because the business that he's in is being a tree surgeon. So you can imagine when we need him, he's kind of on call to the town. We pay him $1,000 a month, and he comes in 2-3 hours a week is his schedule, and then on call as needed. But with our current tree warden, on call as needed is his busiest time. When we need him on a Friday night to start riding the roads and finding where there's problems or trees that are dangerous or hangers and things like that, that's his busiest time, because that's the business he's in, is a tree surgeon, you know, and doing wood. So Ralph had asked our tree warden to come in, and he was not able to do that. And we really needed someone to come in. So I don't think we have, what we have here is a misfit. You know, we have two different conflicts between his personal job and his job working for the town. And they both require his utmost attention and detail and working all both at the same time for the same reason. So I could see this happening with every storm we get into, right? That he's being called to do work, working 12, 14, 16 hours a day, doing his job. And then the town calls on him and he's not available to us. We need someone who's available to us, because why are we paying $1,000 a month for someone who's not on call for us, who can't make it in when we want him to come in? So we're thinking we could look at this job, hire at least one person or two people who are no longer working but have significant work experience. We know of a few of them that could be on call and could show up Friday night at 8 o'clock when we ask them and start going around. And I think that's a much better answer to this question, because this is the sort of thing that can't wait. It needs to be done when we need it to be done. The state law does demand that we have a tree warden who's qualified, and James Doctor is qualified, but with his job as the, you know, the head of, not the head of public, but the head of the road crews, he's pretty much full up too. Now he and Ralph can run around and do all the trees, but I think by law we still have to appoint a full-time, not a full-time, but a tree warden who would do nothing but that. So my suggestion here, my motion would be to rescind the appointment of our current tree warden, Chris Symes, and then find people who we can find and will be available when we need them. Do I have a second?
Okay, yes, I'll second that.
Second it. Any further discussion or questions on this?
Are we thinking the same salary? I mean, if you're thinking two people, they're gonna, it's
No.
gonna be, you know,
What I'd like to do is do a per hour, right? A per hour. When you come in, we pay you X amount per hour. We don't know what those numbers are. We have to go out and look and see what tree wardens make, but it would be less than the 12,000 that we're paying now. Unless there were 30 storms, then we might have.
right. And I was gonna say, and Ralph could probably tell us, you know, a good number of hours to figure.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, actually for a storm like this, it'd probably be 3 days. So, you know, about 24 to 30 hours total, right?
And when there's not a storm, they're going around and just determining if trees are diseased and if the public works needs to take them down.
Right. A lot of that is we get calls. We think a resident calls, I've got a tree on my street. I think it's leaning over. I think it's going to go. And the tree warden goes out and looks at it. And they also mark the trees, you know, with the orange X when we do our $75,000 a year worth of tree work. And we can do that. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I would think we'd have a pretty good pool too, with the number of tree people that we have in the area, qualified tree people.
Yes.
I think we'd be able to find someone very qualified.
Yeah, I absolutely believe that. We already have our idea of a couple people that might be interested. And obviously we'll put it out and ask for bids, but we need people to show up when we ask them.
So if there's a storm and we need to determine which trees, you know, obviously wires aren't hanging and we could take them down, but yeah, that's important.
Right, we do that, but we just need another set of eyes here. When we get a big storm, Ralph and James Doctor are working really hard. They're identifying trees themselves.
Yeah.
But one, legally, we have to have a tree warden, and two, it's always good to have a third set of eyes that might be going down streets that the power's not out, right? So we're not looking at it, or there's nothing major there that you can see on the face of it, but you need somebody to really examine it and say, wait, there's a tree here, it's 20 feet in the woods, and it's leaning over, nobody sees it, it may take something out, that sort of thing.
The state requirements, is there number of hours per month
No, I
required?
don't think so. I don't think so. You just have to appoint the tree warden.
Okay.
All those in favor of that motion, say aye.
Very good. Yes.
Aye.
Okay. And because this is a special meeting, we can't cover any other subjects. So I think that's, I just want to make sure that's everything. Bunch of items.
That's what my agenda shows.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it, Steve.
Okay. So having no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I will
Right.
let you do that, Sue.
I will make a motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
I will second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thanks, guys. We really appreciate you doing this on short notice.
Harry,
Have a good-
enjoy your
I will. We're at the shore, we're at the Jersey Shore.